Actors, we've all got issues, so let's talk about them. I'm Juan Ayala, and welcome to Actors with Issues. Each week, we bring you interviews with actors from across TV, film, and Broadway, taking many deep dives into their careers and getting into the successes, the struggles, and of course, the issues that they face as actors. That's enough about us. Let's dive into the episode. You know and love today's guest from the hit CBS comedy series Ghosts, and from right here on Actors with Issues, please welcome back to the stage, Asher Grodman. Asher, welcome back to the show, man. So good to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So the last time you were here was actually just about a year ago. It was like end of February that we published the episode. Ghost was about halfway through season one. You guys had literally just been renewed like a few days before we had the interview. So here we are. You guys are renewed for season three. Congrats. I'm so excited to continue seeing all of the hilarity at the Woodstone B&B. And yeah, what's going through your head right now? You guys are renewed again and just sort of looking back at the last couple of years.
What's going through my head right now is how has it been a year? I'm getting like emotional. Like a year went by. What happened?
Yeah.
What did I do? So that's where I'm at right now. God, it feels like it was 3 months ago. I mean, look, I am thrilled. I work with this amazing cast who are some of my favorite people on the planet. We have a brilliant concept for this show, this BBC concept that we get to continue to play out and pay tribute to. And CBS and Paramount and Lionsgate and BBC, and their support has been amazing. So I'm on cloud nine in terms of how I get to spend my day to day.
And when you were all on set, so just going back a second, so many shows don't even get the back nine or get past the pilot stage, and here you guys are going into season three later this year. So what can you remember as like the biggest difference? I mean, beside COVID restrictions, because they have lifted a little bit since then, but day one of the pilot versus Asher Grodman today, what's the biggest
Whoa,
difference there?
wow, that's a big question. Uh, I got to think about that for a second. I mean, there was so much. I remember shooting the pilot and this whole thing feeling when I first read this pilot, I was like, this thing is going to work. Like this, people will watch this, people will love this. Cause I had this sense that, celebrities and money and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, if you have a great story, that's your best bet.
Mm.
And my question, the question on my mind, the question on everyone's mind is, would we be able to survive the pandemic and survive the obstacle course that is the pilot season journey? And then, of course, for us with the pandemic, that pilot season journey was stretched out over a year and a half. So there were a lot of pitfalls and obstacles. Yeah, so the fragility of it at the moment. And now there's a sense of, I think it's a journey from fragility to responsibility, if that
Hmm.
makes any sense. Because now we have this thing, and we won the lottery, and we have like this incredible concept that we get to play out, and with this incredible show, when we have this collaboration with each other, and so now it's like you get this to once beyond a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I spent 20 years unemployed, knowing very well how rare something like this is. And how do you give it everything you have and fight for it and try to make the best thing that you possibly can every single day? I think that's the biggest transition. And there are certainly things about like me and confidence that has grown and I've learned so much and things of that nature. But I also had very good coaches who kind of set me up for what that journey might look like. So I think the biggest transition is going from like, oh God, I hope this happens, to let's take care of this thing as much as we possibly can.
And with the show, I mean, I am still such a fan. It's like the one of the two or three shows that I still watch like week to week.
Oh my
You know,
God,
on
that's
I
very
don't have
sweet.
cable, but it's like on Paramount Plus and whatnot. But you guys
Right.
just have such a fantastic cast. I mean, I've interviewed like half of you at this point. You guys are all friends of the show. We had
Who have you not
Danielle.
interviewed? Let's get these people on the
Oh, who
phone.
have I not
Ridiculous.
interviewed? Of the
I'll
of the
chase them down.
ghosts, Rebecca and Devin and Sheila.
All right, we're gonna track them down.
And you guys have such a great cast. It is such a feel good show. It is like the sense of escapism that we all need, and the laugh that we all need. You know,
Yeah.
because so many shows, like especially when COVID happened, like they were all implementing the pandemic into the story in some way,
Mm.
and it's just like, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, we're like, we don't need to see more of this. This is our day to day already. So,
Yeah.
it's just, just such a great show, man. Like I'm so proud of all of you guys. I feel like I know you all at this point. I actually met Brandon at the Critics' Choice Awards. I got to like
Really?
actually meet one of you.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm so
Um,
he's really disappointing when you meet him in person, isn't he? It's really a shame. I know. I keep telling him you gotta warm up, buddy. No, I'm kidding. Uh, that's very kind of you to say. And obviously means it means a lot, especially we're just like our transition back into humanity is only like 14 days old right now because we just
right.
wrapped a couple weeks ago. Um, so that's I mean that's incredible to hear. There's something brilliant in this idea that uh there's this life and death like chasm that you can never cross over, and we're going to take these things that'll never be together and just smash them together in a way that's so mundane it's like just waking up and seeing your pet in the morning. um and there's something about that juxtaposition which it's like touching on existential stuff but in a way that is also like we're clowns, so like we can play with things that are in any other circumstance would feel kind of heavy, um and do it in a way that is light and cartoonish and specific. And so I have to tip my hat to just this brilliant, I think generational concept for a show that that BBC crew came up with.
And next week, or a week from today, from when we're speaking, there's a very special Trevor-centric episode coming up. And the last time we had one of those, we learned how he lost his pants and how big
That's
of a
right.
heart he has. And
Oh,
we won't get into spoilers, but what can fans look forward to this go around? You got some exciting guest stars. I'm not sure if it's officially announced, so yeah, but yeah, what can
well,
we learn?
in what may be the most exciting news for Trevor since the show started, Tara Reid is going to make a appearance at Woodstone, uh, which is going to be just as exciting for Trevor as anyone would imagine it would be, and equally, perhaps equally exciting. I think equally exciting. Just in a different way, his parents are going to end up coming to the
Mm,
house too, which is going to be the first time. There are storylines you can play out with Trevor and Pete because of the proximity of their deaths to
yeah.
when we tell most of our stories, and to get people who knew them. Well, maybe the Flower too. We may see some Flower stuff. I'm not sure if it'll be this season, but I think there's stuff to play with there.
Mm,
Um, so you'll get a little bit of more insight into Trevor, and I think one of the fun things is and again it's this BBC concept. We are trapped. We can't go anywhere. We are so limited in the stories we can tell in terms of where we can be,
mm,
and yet there's this other door that is open to 1,000 years of history on this plot of land.
yeah.
And so where like one door is closed, there's this other thing that few shows ever have the ability to do, which is go back in time. And this is one of those opportunities where we get to experience the prequel of how we got to where these ghosts are today with Sam and Jay. And so you get a lot of insight into Trevor. And then there's going to be a fun play of, as there often is. Trevor is the most recently dead. He's the only ghost who spent more time alive than he has dead. And so Trevor is constantly trying to interact with the world of the living because
Mm,
that's where he still identifies. So he's going to try to reach out to his parents and have an impact,
mm.
which I think will I hope will give more insight into him and send him on a little bit of a journey that the audience gets to go on with him.
And going back a bit to what you mentioned about sort of like being stuck or limited in this particular setting, at least for the show and things like that. As an actor, have you found that to be a bit difficult? Like, or is it a challenge that you're like excited to take on of a character? Like, I mean, for Hedy to become a feminist, it took her, and even then, it's a questionable feminine, or it's like it's mild
It is
feminism,
questionable. Yeah.
and it's taken her hundreds of years to get there. So for Trevor, do you are you excited for sort of like what's to come in terms of like how he can develop, or are you just having fun like relishing because he's still on like party mode because that's like when he that's when he went. So
Yeah, I think I'm excited. I am of the mindset that any limitation, often limitations are a gift because it immediately helps you, one, make a choice. And any limitation is often a kind of a unique limitation. So you can say, all right, well, I got a hand and a leg tied, up to a wall or behind my back or whatever. So what can I do with the rest of me? And that can create unique shapes. So the idea that like a lot of our stories are told backwards, I find like there's just not another show like that.
mm,
I think that's so exciting. Uh, and Yeah, it's something that I enjoy leaning into. Yeah, because it's like it's just an endless journey into prequels that you can go back as far as you want, and you may think you're just telling stories about the past, but by telling stories about the past, you're enriching the present. One of my
mm,
favorite episodes is Thorpe, which is when
yeah.
it's just Trey Colmer and John Blixted wrote it in season one, and you learn about Thor's past because of the proximity of the ghost, and Thor and I have to share our rooms. We have these nightmares, and so by going into the past, you learn more about the present.
Mm.
And I think Trevor's Pants was like that. I think this one will be like that. That fantastic Thor and Hedy backstory about her thinking that he was her butler. Uh, like these are just such clever things that I think the goal for us is always, are we telling a story that only our show could do? And I think that's our North Star quite often. So that's always very exciting.
And before we go, because we are running a bit on time, what
Sure.
would you say is the biggest lesson learned while playing Trevor so far?
Like lesson for Trevor or lesson for me?
Lesson for you as an actor, like what lesson have you learned in the process?
Juan, you always have these big questions and I'm never prepared. Um, I know whatever I'm going to say, like 5 minutes later, I'm going to be like, dummy, you should have said this. I think well, one thing I'll definitely say that I kind of alluded to earlier is the sense of how rare this thing is. And the more I'm on it, the more I feel this sense of responsibility to make it as good as possible. I'm not surprised that that's where my head is at. I think that if you had asked me way back in the beginning, I would have felt similarly. I think I was just focused on the hoping and praying that we would get to this point. So I think there is that, and then also an element of painting with a finer and finer brush. I
Mhm.
think is a fun thing, and it's funny in different scripts. Different scripts play on different levels. So figuring out, okay, when is the time to paint with a small brush? When is the time to paint with a broader brush? Can also depend on where your role is in that particular story. Um, and it comes down to stuff where it's like I may be in one storyline in an episode, but it is vitally important for me to understand what the other storyline is in the episode for me to
Mhm.
understand what kind of brush I'm using. If you kind of close yourself off into one space, you miss out on your role in the larger picture. So I think that's a big one. It's kind of a heady answer, but I hope it meant like a heady answer, not a heady answer.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Eddie's always on Trevor's mind these
Though
days.
she, that's
It's
right.
so
Yeah. Though she
that's one of
would,
the funniest
Rebecca
left
would
turns.
agree with me.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Trevor and Hetty was one of the funniest like left turns, like what
Oh yeah.
sort of moments. It was so funny, and every time that they reference it back is just hysterical. I'm like,
I will tell you,
wow.
there's one moment in this process where our showrunners Joe Port and Joe Wiseman kind of opened the door to us to say, "Do you guys have ideas? Do you have pitches?" And it was before we started shooting season one, and we each had meetings with the members of the writers' room, and it was like our one chance to be like, "Hey, what do you think? What would you like to see? What are your thoughts?" And I know that, and we didn't talk to each other beforehand, but I know both Rebecca and I went into those meetings saying, Trevor and Hedy. It's going to be such a problem having the two of them together. And yet, because in some ways it so fits, they both want to win and
Yeah.
they want to dominate and they're into money and they're into the hierarchy and they're into relishing that hierarchy when they're on top and despising the hierarchy when they're on the bottom. That is who they are. And at the same time, she is old money. He is new money. If she hates the Irish, imagine what she thinks about the Jews.
Oh God.
So it's and he's like so sexually liberated, and
Mm.
she is obviously on the other end of that spectrum, although certainly moving, as you've alluded to. So there are these ways in which they're so similar, and in ways in which they are polar opposites. And the transactional nature of their relationship, and the fact that someone they're both so beautifully drawn, these characters, the fact that they could find like a business arrangement through sex, and that's where both of them would go, because in a way Hedy looks, I don't want to speak for that character too much, but I think it's safe to say that Hedy would look at sexuality in much the way that the dudes from Trevor's time would, which
Yeah.
is, this is about sex, only about sex. I don't want anything else, you know. And
Yeah.
so she's like this woman who's 100 and, yeah, 100 years earlier than he is, and yet they're kind of aligned on this.
Mm.
There's a lot of fun to be had there.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad that pitch went through.
Well, Asher, thank you so much, man, for taking the time to chat with us.
Thanks for
Oh,
having
our
me.
last question. In 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
Juan, why do you do this? Oh
That's
God,
the one thing
10
I
words
ask
or
every
less.
single episode.
I know, and I forgot. Oh God. What did I say last year? Can I see a replay? Do you have that just offhand? Like
I don't
play
have
it.
it offhand.
Yeah, great. Okay.
Insert clip.
I would say let story be your guide. Take risks and don't let the reaction to those risks don't take the reaction to those risks personally.
Okay. Got it. I feel like "Let Story Be Your Guide" was in your last one because that phrase just
Yeah,
feels familiar.
that's
But
a very me thing. Yeah,
consistency is key.
there you go. Yeah, exactly.
But Asher, if anyone wants to give you a follow on Twitter, Instagram, anywhere on social media, where can they find you?
Come on down. It's just my name it's at my name at Asher Grodman on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, though I'm not as good as that one at that one. And just prepare yourself for a lot of ghosts, uh, puppy, and jaguars content, especially after this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And folks, you know the drill. You can find us on Instagram at Actors with Issues. Give me a follow at Juaniela Official and subscribe to our show on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes every Monday and bonus episodes throughout the week. Ghosts airs Thursdays at 8:30 Eastern on CBS and streams the next day on Paramount Plus. I'm Juaniela. This is Actors with Issues, and we'll see you next week.
Follow this guy. He's amazing.